Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. Thank you so much to everyone for coming tonight. This is the first in our series of 2 disaster seminars. This one tonight is focusing on disaster preparedness. So I would like to introduce our speakers tonight. First, we're going to have Dean Felch with the Orange County Fire Authority. Next, Robbie Pitts with the board of Serrano Water District, Jerry Vielander, who is the general manager for Serrano Water District, and then we have Gabby Landeros, who is the Water Emergency Response Organization of Orange County coordinator out of the Municipal Water District of Orange County. So thank you so much for being here. And I would also like to acknowledge our Sheriff's Captain, Miguel Sotelo, as well as our council members who are here tonight, Mayor Pro Tem Jordan Wu, who also, along with myself, planned the event for this evening, Councilman Kelly McBride over there, and Councilwoman Crystal Miles. So thank you so much for coming and for being here this evening. I would like just to make a quick note before I call up our first speaker that we will be saving all questions until the end, but at the end we will be taking the microphone around for any questions you might have. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dean Felch with the Orange County Fire Authority. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor Jones. Thank you everyone for being here tonight. My name is Dean Felch, and I'm an educator for Orange County Fire Authority. So I go into communities and I teach folks about how to be safe, whether it comes to fire safety, water safety, disaster preparedness, any kind of safety. I also have a background in firefighting. I used to be a firefighter, so I can answer some questions specifically about what firefighters might be doing in an emergency. So as the slide says, we're going to talk about disaster preparedness tonight. We've been working, Mayor Jones and myself, Mayor Pro Tem Wu, we've been working on this presentation for a few months now, and it's very clear that your city leaders care a lot about your disaster preparedness. We at OCFA care a lot about your disaster preparedness. This is a really important topic, and a lot of people, unfortunately, don't understand how important it is. There was a poll done asking people what percentage of folks think that they are prepared for a big disaster. And the results were 41% of people said they were unprepared. And that's after many major national disasters that brought people's focus to the importance of this, and yet people still feel unprepared. So our hope is that tonight, by talking about disaster preparedness, we can encourage all of you to pursue the things that will make you more prepared and be able to answer yes to that question if it were asked to you. Yes, I feel prepared for a disaster. If you could cycle to the next slide, great. So I do work for Orange County Fire Authority. That is the big fire department here in Orange County. We serve Villa Park and 22 other cities. So we're a county-wide department, and we also serve all the unincorporated areas of Orange County. So there's many departments in Orange County. Some are smaller departments, but we all work together. So for instance, Orange Fire, they have their own department that just serves the city of Orange. If there's a disaster or even just a fire, we all automatically work together. So even though we're different departments that are close to each other, we have agreements in place so that we coordinate. And if there is a disaster, we will instantly be able to work together to integrate with communications. So you can feel very confident that all the fire departments around your area will be able to respond well to a disaster. We do have just about 2 million residents that we serve, 78 fire stations. So as I say, we're a very large department, and we have lots of specialty resources, things like helicopters and drones and heavy rescue units. So for any type of disaster, we're very well prepared to handle that. So tonight we're going to be talking about disaster preparedness, and our objectives are to talk about first the emergency management system. How do disasters get handled by both local, state, and federal resources? What is our role within that system? What can we do as citizens to participate in disaster preparedness? What is a disaster? What are we even talking about when we say a disaster? Why do we want to prepare? What are the reasons that disasters can be damaging? And then finally, we'll go over some ABCs, the basics of how you can prepare for a disaster. So first, the emergency management system. This is kind of the the boring part I like to get done quickly before people get bored of me. So we'll go over this really quickly and I'll get to more fun stuff. But basically the emergency management system is a way that we integrate all levels of government and the citizens themselves to be prepared for disasters. So as you can see here, this is the federal government at the top, state government, local government, and then citizens at the bottom. What I always want people to look at in this pyramid is that the largest, most important piece is the bottom, the citizens. That is the base of this system. So this system functions best when the citizens participate in it, when they create a strong foundation for these higher level agencies to operate on. So if there's a large disaster and the federal resources are maybe handling one portion of it very specifically in one area, they might be at a hospital or a school, we want to make sure that the local responders are able to integrate with the community members to figure out how can we best serve all the other issues going on with this disaster. So we want you to be part of this system. We want you to understand how it works and be able to participate in it. So how does it work? Well, it's really a cycle. There are two phases of disaster management. The yellow phase you see here is before the disaster. What goes on before a disaster strikes? And that's mitigation and preparation. After a disaster happens, we have response and we have recovery. So this is what we will do once the disaster strikes. So what do these words mean? Well, mitigation means lessening the harm. So an example of mitigation would be if you can trim the vegetation around your house that's the most susceptible to catching on fire, well, if there is a wildfire, you will have less of a chance of that wildfire catching your house on fire or causing damage. So by doing mitigation, we're reducing the harm that can be caused by a disaster. And there's many different types of mitigation. This could be fastening large appliances so they won't fall over in the event of an earthquake. This could be purchasing an insurance policy. It takes many different forms, but you want to reduce your risk through mitigation. Preparation are the steps you take to make sure that you can respond well when the disaster happens. And we'll talk a lot about this later. This is like creating a disaster kit, creating a plan, staying connected so that you have alerts when there's an emergency. And then once the emergency happens, that's when we respond. And that mainly falls on the emergency responders to do that portion of it. But recovery involves us as well. Recovery is after the disaster is over, we want to bring things back to the way they were. We want to fix things, and communities participate in that part together. So when all that happens, we cycle back to the beginning and we say, okay, we just had this disaster, we responded, we recovered from it. Now how can we learn? How can we go back and mitigate better? How can we prepare better so that when the next disaster happens, we're better capable of handling it? So what is a disaster? Well, there's many different types. We have depicted here a few of the more notable ones that have happened recently in Orange County. Obviously, wildfires are a common disaster that we face here. Even large structure fires could be a major disaster that we encounter. And then there are things that are less obvious. A really hot day could be a disaster in terms of how it affects people, how it creates medical emergencies. So there's lots of different forms that disasters take. And what they all share is that they affect a large number of people, and they usually go across geographical boundaries. So we have multiple jurisdictions, multiple agencies that are going to be involved in responding to them. So why do we prepare? That's really the important question, because I can talk all day about all the bad things that could happen, but what makes us feel like we should do something about it? Part of this is the harm that can come from a disaster. So harm comes in really two ways. It can be harm to people and harm to property. Harm to people is a very serious issue with disasters. They say about 10,000 people per year globally lose their lives in disasters. That's a pretty staggering number. So that's the loss of life that we're trying to prevent. But also property damage. The most damaging disaster worldwide is the wildfire. And we have so many of these all the time. So we want to make sure that we are not suffering harm from these disasters. That is why we prepare. So first we're going to talk about earthquakes. Earthquakes can happen anywhere, anytime. And that's why when we think about preparedness, we don't want to think about the situation we want to be in, right? We don't want to think about the situation where we have everything we need to be safe from the earthquake. We want to think about all the places where it could happen, where it'll be more difficult to respond. What if we're sleeping in bed? What if we're driving in a car? What if we're just walking outside? So we want to account for all those possibilities when we're preparing for what to do in an earthquake. And we're going to watch a quick video in the next slide about what to do to prepare for earthquakes.
When the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you removed objects from over the bed and over your head? Anchored your possessions securely to the wall? It won't be a pain, and you're not doing it in vain. Are your emergency kits packed? What about your family, your friends? Do they know what to do, how to get in touch, and where to meet? Do you know how to drop, cover, and hold on, covering your head and neck? What if you're outside? Or in a car? After the shaking stops, look around. Figure out what to do. Stay away from damaged areas. Turn on a radio. Reach out for help. And if you're trapped, do not move about. Stay calm. Only shout as a last resort. Once everything and everyone is safe, get prepared. An aftershock could be on its way. So before the earth shakes, the ground moves, and things start to fall, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because an earthquake can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know.
Great. So a lot of that video was about what to do when an earthquake happens, but there was also some information about how to prepare yourself so that you have better actions you can take in the event of an earthquake. We want to think about the spaces that we tend to be in. What are the safe spaces where we could drop and take cover in the event of an earthquake? And a big one at your homes is how can you eliminate things that can fall down and harm you? So when we have TVs that might be mounted on a wall, or you might have a large bookshelf with a lot of heavy items in it. We want to make sure that those can't fall over and hurt us. We want to bracket them and brace them and do whatever we can to secure these large items that could move around in an earthquake and potentially harm us. Moving on to wildfires, we know that there are plenty of wildfires that happen in Orange County all the time. Chief Kuzma has arrived. Hello, Chief. Good to see you. And as he knows from firsthand experience, we've had, countless wildfires already this year. Now, a lot of them are so small that you might not hear about them. Our firefighters go out and they put them out really quickly, and no one even knows about them. But there are always wildfires breaking out, and it's always a risk that we have. Here we see some of the more major ones that have happened in recent history here in Orange County. As you can see from these numbers, it's staggering the damage they can do in terms of the acreage they can burn, the structures they can destroy, the people they can displace. So we take this particular issue very, very seriously, and it's one of the major things that we have to prepare for. So how do we do that? At OCFA, we have a program called Ready, Set, Go, and that's our way of preparing for wildfires. So you can go on our website to ocfa.org/ready, set, go. It's listed there on the slide, and that will give you tons of very specific information about all the things you can do. I'm going to go very quickly tonight over just some of the basics, but I would encourage you to go on the website and research more about things that you can do to be ready for a wildfire. So the readiness component is that mitigation that we talked about. How can you harden your home? How can you make your home more resilient against wildfires? How can you remove vegetation that's highly susceptible to catching on fire, or vegetation that's close enough to your house that it could bring a fire to your house? And ember awareness. I'm going to show you a video in a moment about ember awareness, but I've got a question for you. So does anybody know, and you can't answer, Chief, how far an ember can travel? How far could an ember travel from a wildfire? Anybody have a guess? Oh, you know. Yes, 5 miles, so that's a long way. So if you think about 5 miles, there could be a wildfire that feels like it's a pretty safe distance away, but the embers from that wildfire, especially when the winds are blowing, they could travel pretty far. So we want to make sure that our homes are ready for wildfires, even if we don't feel like there's a high risk of a wildfire happening in our backyard. Being set is the preparedness, and we're gonna go over the ABCs of preparedness in a moment, and that's gonna hit each of those items. Have a plan, pack a bag, stay connected, stay alerted. And then we're gonna talk about go. So go is just what you do when the wildfire happens. And the key thing that we really want to emphasize is evacuate early. When there's an evacuation recommended, a lot of folks wanna stay behind and kind of wait out until it seems like it's getting worse, but the best thing you can do is just evacuate early. Now, at the next presentation on October 15th, we're gonna talk more about that, about evacuation routes and how to evacuate. But the emphasis I wanna leave you with tonight is just to evacuate when you're told to. It's so critical for us, and I know some folks want to stay behind to help. It's not that you're staying behind for a bad reason. You want to try to help, but oftentimes that can result in you getting stuck and needing to be rescued, or the resources that are trying to fight the fire having to deal with an additional issue. So we encourage you to evacuate early. It is great if you can leave resources for the firefighters to use. If you can leave access, if you have a pool, and you can make that accessible to firefighters, that's something that they can use. We don't want you to run water. So if you're running water actively, that actually reduces the water pressure, and my friends from the water district can talk more about that later. But we don't want you just to leave water running, because that actually won't help the firefighting effort. But certainly making things accessible will. And if you just cycle one forward, I've got a QR code up here. So this is a QR code for our free home assessment program. So in Villa Park, as OCFA coverage area, you can get a free home assessment from our Ready, Set, Go professionals. They'll come to your house, they will look at every aspect of your house, the vegetation, the house itself, and they will give you recommendations for how you can harden your home, make it less susceptible to catching on fire. It's a free program. It's not an inspection. This isn't something where someone's going to come to your house and tell you you need to change something. It's just a service to help you know what you can do to be safer, to be more prepared. So I encourage anyone, if you want to take a picture of that QR code, and you can also go on our website, again, ocfa.org, Ready, Set, Go, and there's a link there to that free home assessment. So I really encourage everybody to take advantage of that. Another video, a quick video we'll watch on wildfire preparedness.
When the fire starts, the flames spread, and things start burning to the ground, you'll ask yourself, how prepared or unprepared are you? Have you trimmed the trees, picked up the leaves, and cleared all the flammable debris? Did you clear a zone at least 30 feet from your home? It's best to work in unity with your entire community. Is your emergency supply kit packed? Are your documents safe? Does your family have a plan and know what to do? Because when the flames come your way, you need to be ready. Stay informed. Check for updates. And if you're told to go, grab your bags and hit the road. Don't dilly-dally or waste any time. Your life could be on the line. Now, if the fire gets near, try not to panic. Do not be frantic. Go as low as you can, covering your mouth and nose. Once the flames are out and the smoke disappears, do not go home until you hear the all clear. When it's time to clean up, put on some gloves, a mask, and long sleeves. It's a good idea, most definitely. So before the fire starts, the flames spread, and things start burning to the ground, get prepared. Make a plan. Practice what you know, because a wildfire can happen anytime, anywhere, even close to home. Get started today. Go to ready.gov/prepare.
Great, and then if we can go to the next slide, we'll see a short video about highly flammable plants. These are the vegetation items that you don't want to have close to your house.
Although all vegetation will burn under the right circumstances if exposed to enough heat, some plants have physical or chemical properties that make them fire-prone. Properties that increase flammability include low moisture content, rough or peeling bark, small needle-like leaves, closed, tight branching, retention of dead leaves or branches, presence of oils, pitch resins, waxes, or other chemicals in leaves or branches. Large amounts of plant litter, dead materials such as leaves, bark, needles, etc.
So again, you can schedule that free home assessment, and we will have professionals come out and they can look at the vegetation in your property and identify any plants that might be in that high hazard category. When I watch that video, I see it's like, was that taken in my backyard? I mean, I see all the things that I'm familiar with, right? So we know that we have this kind of vegetation in our community. We want to do whatever we can to prevent it from being a potential source to spread fire to our homes. If you go to the next slide, we have one more video here, be ember aware.
Wildfires are a fact of life in Orange County. It's only a matter of time until the next one occurs. Unfortunately, media coverage and our natural fear of fire have led many people to believe that direct flame contact is responsible for the destruction of most homes, which isn't true. In order to protect your home effectively, you need to understand what really threatens it during a wildfire. Most homes are ignited by wildfire embers, not flames. Embers are burning pieces of flammable material like pine cones, tree bark, twigs, and wood shingles. Once they're picked up by strong Santa Ana winds, embers can travel as much as 5 miles ahead of the active front of a wildfire. Before flames get anywhere near your home, wind-blown embers can fall like rain on the roof, patio cover, and deck. Whether they smolder under a wood shingle, swirl under an open eave, burrow into a crack in combustible siding, or enter through an unprotected vent, embers that come in contact with flammable material can result in flames that threaten your home. If embers fall on and ignite nearby vegetation, the radiant heat produced by the fire can ignite combustible siding, doors, or window frames. Radiant heat can also cause windows to break, creating passages that flames and embers can use to enter your home. Once the home is on fire, it will create more embers that can be picked up by Santa Ana winds, travel to other homes and neighborhoods, and increase fire loss for the entire community. Embers create an enormous threat during a wildfire, and the most effective way to reduce that threat is to follow home hardening and vegetation management guidelines. Take responsibility. It's the steps you take now to harden your home and manage your vegetation that will protect your family, your home, your neighborhood, and your community during the next wildfire.
So again, the emphasis there on that home hardening and that vegetation management, and that free home assessment is a great way for you to find out more about those items and how they pertain specifically to your house and your neighborhood. Great, so we'll just talk a little bit about some of the other potential disasters we could face. Flooding is a disaster that we run into a lot. I know we've got some rain potentially coming, and this time of year, sometimes we get a lot of those flood conditions. The most important thing for flood conditions is that we don't want to be in cars where the water is. It takes a very small amount of water to stall a car. 6 inches is enough to stall a car, and 6 inches can also knock an adult off their feet. Now, 2 feet of water is enough to pick up a car. Most people don't think about that. 2 feet's not very tall, and you can see that, and I could probably drive through that. I've got a truck. 2 feet can pick up the entire car, and now you've got a car that is going wherever the water wants it to go. So we don't want to drive where the floods are. Obviously, we also don't want to walk there. We want to just avoid that area. We want to tune in to the emergency alerts, and they'll give you information about what areas to avoid. In a moment, I'll bring up a QR code for sandbags. We do offer sandbags at OCFA. We have numerous sites where you can fill your own sandbags with sand that we have on site, one of them being Station 23 here in Villa Park. I'll just talk quickly about mudslides, and then we'll pull up that QR code. So mudslides are also a threat, especially obviously in hilly areas where there are slopes. One notable thing about mudslides is that when there's been a wildfire or any kind of burnt vegetation, the lack of the root system that vegetation provided will actually make it more susceptible to a mudslide. So there's not as much, there aren't roots holding the dirt together. So if you know that there's an area where there was a wildfire recently and it's sloped, that could be an area that's more susceptible to a mudslide. And then extreme heat, we want to make sure we're hydrating. We're kind of just past the end of the extreme heat period that we've been dealing with, but certainly we could still have some hot days. But we do want to make sure that we're always limiting our outdoor activities and consuming lots of fluid when there's one of these events. Again, these might not seem like disasters because they don't fit the profile of something like an earthquake or a wildfire, but they do have the potential to cause a lot of harm to a large population. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see this is a picture here of Station 23. You can see where I've circled. That's where the sand is kept. So you're welcome to just drive up there. There's shovels and sandbags, and you can fill your sandbags there. We would encourage you to do this ahead of time. Certainly, if there's a predicted weather event, it'd be great to get your sandbags taken care of long before the rain comes. We don't want to be waiting till the last minute to be putting up sandbags. Great, thank you. And you can go to the next slide. Great, so we come to the end here. We're going to talk just about the ABCs of disaster preparedness. What are the practical things that you can do tonight, this week, to help you prepare for a disaster? So we have A, which is assemble a disaster preparedness kit, making an emergency kit that you can bring with you if you have to evacuate. B is to build your personal emergency plan. This is a plan that you will make to say, this is what I will do when a disaster strikes. And then C, which is both correct home hazards, some of what we were just talking about, but also the other C that's not listed here is connecting with your community, getting alert systems, getting signed up for alert systems so you know when a disaster is happening. So if we go to the next slide, we'll see first our A here, which is our disaster preparedness kit. Who here has a disaster preparedness kit? Awesome, that's great. A lot of folks do. It's something that it's very easy to put off because, I'll do it another day. But I promise you, having these on hand, it's not just useful in an emergency, but it also gives you that peace of mind knowing that you're prepared, knowing that if a disaster strikes, you're not going to be panicking, thinking about what do I need to get right now. So we have 6 P's that we like to keep in our disaster preparedness kits. The first P pertains to people and pets. So that's our food and our water, all the things that everybody in your household needs to survive for 3 days. So when we make a disaster preparedness kit, we're thinking for 3 days. What will I need if I have no access to any other resources for 3 days? And again, it's for everybody in your household. So it's not just 1 gallon of water for one person per day, it's a gallon of water for each person in your house per day. Now, there are lots of these kits you can get online, you can make your own, whatever works for you is fine, but you do want to make sure that you get enough for everybody that would be using the kit. The second P is paper, phone numbers, important documents, any documents that you would like to have on hand if you're traveling and you're unable to access, say, a computer. This could be photocopies of your driver's license, lists of phone numbers of close friends and contacts. Our next P is prescriptions, any kind of medications that you need to take, eyeglasses, anything medical that you would need in the event of an emergency. Then we have pictures and irreplaceable memorabilia. This one is really just about what's important to you. A lot of folks, when they experience disasters and they have to evacuate, they find what really matters to them are things that are irreplaceable that get lost. So if you do have something that you really means a lot to you, you can put it in your kit, and that way you know that that's going to be with you when you go. Personal computer and phone, that's a little less realistic. I don't think many people are going to buy an extra computer or an extra phone to put in their kit. But what you can do is you can have a pocket in your bag that you know you're going to put your phone into or your computer. That way, as you're grabbing it, you can throw those things in, and now you know that you definitely have them. And plastic and cash, it's good to always have a little bit of money on hand in case there's an emergency and you don't have access to your bank. A few other things that people tend to put in, portable shelters are a great idea, medical kits. Some people even bring some toolkits, some very lightweight toolkits, but you do want to make sure that it's portable. So this is something that you're going to have to grab and go with. So you don't want it to be too big and bulky. If you have a large family, you might want to consider having multiple bags. We have 2 in our house, the 2 backpacks. So that way you don't have to break your back as you're evacuating. But I promise you, getting this made, having this all set and ready to go is going to give you a lot of peace of mind so that you know you're all set to survive for several days if you need to in the event of a disaster. And then our family disaster plan. So this QR code is for OCFA's disaster plan. You can download it. I also have copies there in the back. And it's just a plan that you write out that says, this is who we will contact in a disaster, this is where we will go, and everybody in your household knows the plan. That way we all are going to the same place. We are all contacting the same person. It's great to have contacts that are out of your local area if possible. That way, if it's impossible to get in contact with someone local, you can reach out to someone remote. Also making sure that everybody knows their role. I just talked about disaster preparedness kits. Someone's got to grab that, right? Who's going to grab it? You want to make sure that's all planned out so that you don't get in the car and drive away and say, okay, who got the kit? Oh, nobody got it. So have a plan, make it out. You don't have to use ours, but this is just a template showing you what you should include in it. And again, you can scan that QR code or you're welcome to grab a copy at the back table. One more video, and then I've got one more slide.
This message is brought to you by the U.S. Fire Administration. Have two ways out. When fire strikes, deadly smoke can fill your home within minutes. That's why the USFA wants you to plan and practice home fire drills. Draw a map of each level of your home showing all doors and windows. Discuss the map with everyone who lives with you. Practice your home fire drill at least twice a year. Make sure all doors and windows that lead outside open easily. Push the smoke alarm button to start the drill. Try feeling your way in the dark or with your eyes closed. Have at least two ways out of every room. If your first way out is blocked by fire or smoke, you can use your second way out. If there is smoke, get low and go. Crawl quickly under the smoke to your nearest exit. Close doors behind you and gather at a pre-planned outside meeting place where first responders can see you. Call 911. Remember, get out and stay out. Never go back inside for people, pets, or things. Learn more at www.usfa.fema.gov.
Great. And then finally, we're going to talk about connecting with your community. So the main resource that we encourage everyone to use is Alert OC. Now, if anyone has Alert OC already, you might have received a message today. You guys got that? So they did a test today where they sent out messages. And if you didn't get it, it's good to check and say, you know, do I have the right phone number, the right email address listed? But this is a great resource. They will also call a home phone, so it doesn't have to be a cell phone. But you register all your contact info with them, and when there's a disaster, they will push out all the information you need about evacuations, what to do, everything you might need to know. So Alert OC is a really great resource we recommend. Also, Watch Duty is an app that gives information about ongoing wildfires. And our fire chief, Chief Fennessy, is actually on the board of Watch Duty. And it's a great resource to know when there's a wildfire, what the evacuation zones are. They even have pictures of the fire, lots of information there. So that's another good resource. But we want to make sure that you're getting connected. And getting connected is partly this, apps and information from authorities, but it's also you all, right? That base of that emergency system we talked about, the citizens. That means knowing who's in your community, knowing who has certain needs in your community. If someone might have difficult evacuating on their own, knowing that ahead of time will help you relay that information to the folks that are gonna be helping with that. So get connected with your community, know your neighbors, and sign up for the resources that will alert you for a disaster. And that's it. So I really appreciate you all listening tonight. As I said, this is a really important topic. A lot of folks don't feel prepared for disasters, and we want to make sure that you do, that you're ready for disaster, and hopefully we don't have any here, but if one does strike, you'll be confident that you know what to do and you're well prepared. So thank you very much, and I'm going to pass the mic off to Mr. Pitts, and he will talk to you about the Water District. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
So, thank you all for coming tonight. We appreciate it. And what we want to do is spend a little time and talk to you a little bit about our preparedness in Serrano Water District. I will tell you, I transitioned off the city council here in Villa Park recently and joined the Serrano Water District board as one of the 5 members of the board. We also have Frank Bryant here tonight, who is one of our board members, and Jerry is also our general manager. And one of the things, I'm fairly new to water. I've been doing it most of my life, but I'm fairly new to the board. And I'm going through a learning curve right now, and for the last 6 months, it's almost like I've been drinking it through a fire hose. gaining information on what we do every day, not only to prepare for delivery of water to all of you here in Villa Park, safe water, but also what we do in the event that something does happen, and how do we prepare to still continue to serve you throughout that situation. So Jerry's going to spend a little bit of time talking about this. His job, he spends most all days, every day on preparation. You know, that includes maintenance and a lot of other things that go on in our infrastructure. We have an aging infrastructure here in Villa Park, but this man takes very good care of what we have because he's constantly looking forward, looking out into the future, trying to figure out what we need to deliver water to you all. So, without further ado, Jerry.
Thank you, Robbie. Good evening, folks. Feel like I'm getting ready to do some karaoke. I don't usually hold a microphone, so unless I'm doing karaoke. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So one of the things with a water district, we're always prepared for emergency because, believe it or not, they're happening a lot, and you just don't even know it. So as Robbie had mentioned, is that maintenance, preparation. Folks are out there, you'll see them turning valves, and the reason why we're out maintaining valves, in case there is an earthquake, you want to be able to isolate an area, so this way you do not have the whole city just spewing water out in the streets, you know, and then you have no water in the hydrant. So you want to isolate a main break during an earthquake or some other, you know, catastrophe. Typically it would be an earthquake, but we haven't had, knock on, you know, we haven't had an earthquake which really, that I know of, has caused a main break since I've been here. And wildfires typically do not cause main breaks. So we're out maintaining, turning valves so we can isolate during earthquakes or a break in the system. We have emergency generators that we maintain every 6 months. We have a company that we have contracts with. They come in, they maintain, do load testing. And I don't know what it is about this area, but I do notice that we have power outages in Villa Park more often than I do in Westminster. I'm supposed to not say that, but it happens, right? And it has to do with the fact that we are kind of in that zone that, what do they call the wildfire, what do we call that? The what? Yeah, so they'll shut off the Taiwan network, whatever the name of the network is, and then all of a sudden, boom, no power. Do you notice you have water still by miraculous some way? Well, what it is that we have emergency generators that, boom, they're on. So, and you still have water. So we're prepared for emergencies with backup generators. And also if it happens to be an isolated incident to where it's really Serrano that has a supply issue, maybe, God forbid, this has not happened, the well's down, and also our supply from our treatment plant, which is now Irvine Ranch Water District's treatment plant. But if those are both down, we have emergency interconnections with the city of Orange, and there's plenty of supply for Villa Park if there is a catastrophe that's localized. Now, if it's a regional event, I'm going to let someone else talk about the regional stuff. But we have spare parts and equipment, you know, at our yard, and we also have contracts with supply folks that we buy our parts from, and we have Orange next to us, and we have relationships with other water agencies, which Gabby will talk about as well. And we have on-call personnel that are on 24/7, so there's always someone available if there's a main break or any issues to respond. And all else fails, and we are just completely overprescribed at the little water district of Serrano Water District, like Villa Park is a pretty small city. If we're overprescribed, we then call our neighboring agencies, of course, OCFA, the sheriff. I mean, we're calling everybody. But I have a network, I call them friends, but there's a network of folks in the water industry that's a very close, tight-knit community, and we are there for each other just like cities are in response. And who we call is the Water Emergency Response Organization of Orange County, which is called WeRock. And then they will come typically, you know, and get the forces needed to assist us. Fortunately, we have only one time I knew where I really needed WeRock, and that's when we did have a little situation at the Smith Reservoir, and it was just calling some folks to assist, but I had already had the forces rolling in, like the cavalry rolling in, but you all still had water. So we're very prepared for emergencies, and I don't know if anyone here can tell me the last time they did not have water to their house during any catastrophe that you knew was a catastrophe. Power outage, wildfire, you still have water at your house when there's not even power. So if you need anything, you need water. So, and rest assured, when there's a wildfire, yes, there's enough, system for a fire or two of houses, but not to take the hydrants and put the whole wildfire out. This doesn't happen. That's why you have, airplanes and helicopters dipping into lakes and dropping water on fires. But we have enough design for the typical residential fires, etc. And we do have what we call the bomb pits close by for dipping in if they ever need to. We don't own that, but it's there for fire. And as well as Irvine Lake is there as well for folks to go. And what typically happens when you'll see, and you don't even know what's going on during a wildfire, is that you'll see the helicopters rolling around. They're over at Irvine Lake staged. We used to have a relationship with OCFA, CAL FIRE, all these folks, where they go rolling down Santiago Highway, and we'd open the gates for them. They actually have the keys, and they'd roll in to Irvine Lake in the staging area, and all the equipment's out there. They have all the whatever the retardant stuff that they have to load up to fill up with, etc. All staged at Irvine Lake. So we've always had a relationship when it comes to firefighting as a water district. So we used to own Irvine Lake. So we've always had a relationship and always been prepared and assisting to be prepared for wildfires. So with that, again, I say if we had to call the cavalry and WeRock, we call them, and now I'm going to turn this over to Gabby to give the presentation on how Water Emergency Organization of Orange County does their show. So,
Thank you. Hi, can everybody hear me? Awesome. I'm Gabby Landeros. I'm with the Water Emergency Response Organization of Orange County. Appreciate the introduction, Jerry. That long name, in short, stands for WeRock. Cool acronym. But we collaborate with 36 water and wastewater organizations throughout Orange County. We're a unicorn in the state of California. You won't find us anywhere else where we have this regional collaboration, support, and coordination of resources and information sharing across jurisdictions throughout our county. One of our member agencies is Serrano Water District. Go ahead and change the slide. Thank you. My presentation is on the flow of preparedness. We value information. That information sharing all the way, not only to our member agencies at Serrano Water District, but also that gets towards the community. And your actions matter. Your actions now, today, and for the future matter for your resilience. And knowing your water agency and what to do during emergencies. Next slide. So there might be some repeats because preparedness is a shared responsibility, right? We heard OCFA talk about Alert OC. So just raise your hand if you received the emergency notification today. Today was the county's mass emergency notification system. So you might have received multiple notifications from different jurisdictions because we wanted to overwhelm the system to make sure that it works, to make sure that you're receiving messages. So if you signed up Alert OC where you live, you might have signed up Alert OC for a different city. If you work in a different location, if you go to school, or if you volunteer, that's probably why you receive multiple alerts. So if you haven't done so already, or you've received a notification on a different number or different email that you don't want to receive notifications, make sure you contact the county at alert OC at ocsheriff.gov to make sure that you update your information. You can find that on the county's website. It is an opt-in system, but that is the Orange County emergency notification that we use region-wide. So that's the main part, to get your information. Another one is knowing and staying connected with your water district, your water agency. Who do you receive your bill from? That's the first clue on who your water agency is. Your water agency promotes transparency and trust to ensure that you understand your drinking water quality. So make sure that you receive those notifications. And so you can have accurate answers regarding your water safety and service. And if you receive any notifications from us, make sure you follow directions. Follow all notices, all advisories from your water agency until we confirm the water is safe. We're doing stuff on the background, behind the scenes, testing the water, making sure that there's no contamination, and we confirm that what's true. So we want to make sure that that information's correct. That's one of our jobs. Not only getting the wet stuff to the red stuff, making sure that fire has water for water protection, but also our job is making sure that you have safe, reliable drinking water. So make sure that you listen to your water agencies until it's safe to use that water. This can also be notifications regarding location for water distribution. So those locations, if there is a water outage in your neighborhood, we will send out information on where to get that water. It could be water notices, and it can also send you notifications regarding restrictions. So just wait from us, from your water agencies, your trusted water agency, to confirm your water is safe for drinking. Next slide. Your actions matter. So what you can do right now is to reduce your risk by repairing leaks in your homes and or your business. So if you have a business in town, make sure that you repair those leaks, which can help prevent unnecessary water loss. So think of it, the water system, those pipes, it's kind of like those arteries and veins in your body. When you have a cut, it's a source for infection, right? It's the same if you have a water leak. You have a break in the pipe, that's a source for contamination. So that you can, by fixing those leaks, it limits the possible access for unknown contaminants. So if a fire burns, that water is still spouting. We send our water agency responders out to your home to turn off the water to your home, so they don't have a source of contamination. It can suck in that debris, ash, anything back into the water system, the same drinking water system that fire uses to put out your fire in your neighborhood. So make sure that you fix the leaks and report it if you notice anything unusual. Another thing is use water efficient equipment and limit to non-essential water use to prevent the depressurization of your system. You've heard it from OCFA that it comes from the same system. So think of a balloon, and if you poke one hole in a water-filled balloon, that's that spout of water that's going through, right? Think about a resident that pokes from the same source. That first stream is going to decrease less and less. The more holes that you create in that balloon, the less pressure you're going to get on that initial stream, which we hope that no one's using during the time of fire protection and firefighting services is happening during an emergency. You saw the video from OCFA about using drought-resilient and fire-resistant plants that can contribute to fuel and fire intensity. So making sure that you use vegetation that has high moisture content and that it removes the dead debris on its own. There are some smart plants out there that just slough off that dead vegetation. You can see outside that there are some palm trees that still hold on to that dead material, which can really ignite and add to the fire intensity. So make sure that you can harden your home and make it more defensible by being smart and using proper vegetation around your home. Also, with that defensible space, when those dead vegetation, that plant litter does fall, make sure you clear it away to make sure that you have clear, accessible entry and exit to your home or business. Removing that debris from your gutters and drainage areas can help with that flow of water when it does come through. And remember, there was a reminder to have at least a minimum gallon per person per day, and to also have that extra water for your pets. Whatever pet that you may have, whether it's a horse to a dog, you know your family well. I know it's a 3-day recommendation, but we try to aim for 2 weeks in emergency management, so 14 days of that supply. So having that in food grade containers and rotate it every 6 months. We don't like stagnant water. So when you use a container of water, replace it with a new one and keep on replacing it throughout those 6 months. Always remember, movement is life. So if you evacuate, don't forget to bring your emergency water storage. That's very important in your supply kit and your go bag. When I travel, my first thing is when I get to the hotel, I'm always looking for water. So make sure you bring it with you with your go bag or your disaster kit. And do not stay at home if you're told to evacuate. So do not leave your water running to water down your home or business. It takes from the same system, and it will take away from fire protection. Next slide. Your water agency's roles during an emergency is very important. You may not know that it happens every day, but it does happen. They do a lot behind the scenes, but you have to realize you are the greatest testers. So if it looks cloudy, if it smells bad, if it looks weird at all, feel free to report it. If you don't know how to report emergencies, you can call Serrano Water District at 714-538-0079. That's their emergency line, day to day. That's where they can get calls. So you are the greatest testers. You have to know that. Your agency will test the water, that quality, and if there's anything out of the ordinary, your agency will assess those impacts. They'll send notifications and they'll fix whatever is damaged. We, of course, have this partnership that doesn't just go based off of emergencies. We do this day to day. We help with the mitigation, the preparedness, the planning, the response, and the recovery. We work on a day-to-day basis with all 36 member agencies that we rock. So we know each other not on just the bad days, but we have this relationship instilled during the good days. And so it makes it easier to coordinate and ask for mutual aid if there is an emergency. And it's all about resource sharing that information so service can be restored and that your needs are met in the end. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it off to Mayor Nicole Jones. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Wonderful. So before we finish up and go to questions, we just have a few slides from the city. And as we said early on, September is National Emergency Preparedness Month. And so we would really like to advise our residents that now is the time. Please don't wait. put together your emergency kits now, assess your homes now, and then make it a habit annually to review your plan, to look at your landscape with fresh eyes, to kind of see what you need to do to prepare for the coming year. So we would really like to emphasize this is the month to do it. I would also, if we could go to the next slide, like to emphasize again Alert OC. And yes, I know this is the third time you've seen it. We did that on purpose. We really want everyone to sign up because one of the top questions I got during the wildfires in January was, well, how would I know if something happened here and I would need to evacuate? Alert OC is how you would know. So please sign up. If you did not get the message today, then you know that your number that maybe you use most frequently is not signed up. So it was very timely that they chose today for the alert, and so everyone in here should know whether or not they're signed up. So next slide, please. Watch duty, again, we had that mentioned by OCFA, but I would really like to emphasize again how helpful this app can be. And I can use a personal example. My daughter lives in Los Angeles, and during the fires up there in January, we used Watch Duty to track how close the evacuation area was getting to her home. And we were able to make a judgment on whether or not she should evacuate based on the information in Watch Duty and making sure that she got out early and was not, trapped. A lot of people did not evacuate on time and they were stuck on clogged roads. We even saw it here with the fire in Peters Canyon a number of years ago. We all saw the traffic that was lined up on those roads. So getting out early is key, and Watch Duty can help you do that. The next slide, Southern California Edison's PSPS events. Unfortunately, these are now a fact of life for everyone here in Orange County, LA County, really all of Southern California. And so getting prepared for these PSPS events is just as important as any other disaster that might hit our area. So what we need to do is familiarize yourself on the ways that Southern California Edison will be contacting you. So if you're an account holder, you will get emails, texts, voice calls. You'll get address level alerts, but you can go in and you can manage your own contact notifications through Southern California Edison sites. So please do that through their customer preference center. If, say, you have your home number and you would rather be notified on your cell phone, make sure that Southern California Edison has the most up-to-date contact information for you so that they can send you the information through your preferred means. Bookmark their outage map in either your browser or download the MySCE app. That's another good way that you can look and you can see where these outages are, because perhaps it's not you. Perhaps you have an elderly family member that you want to keep an eye on. You can access their area too through these outage maps. So please be aware of those and prepare, if you could go the next slide. Mitigate the impacts of PSPS events. So make sure that you have some sort of backup power. Even if you don't want to invest in solar power or a generator, having, plenty of flashlights, lanterns, a wind-up radio, anything that you can use to get notifications. Also, be aware of the rebates and programs that Southern California Edison has and their access and functional needs outreach. So they have notifications for people who are blind, deaf, or have other disabilities. And so you can sign up to get those assistive notifications in case you or perhaps a family member needs those sort of assistive, notifications. Also, you can sign up for the Southern California Edison Medical Baseline Allowance Program, and that gives you money off of your bill every month if you depend on a medical device that is electric powered. So please, look into that ahead of time. And they have information too on their independent living centers. We have a lot of independent living centers in our community, that they assist elderly people who perhaps don't need like a full-scale skilled nursing facility. And so they have resources online for those facilities as well. So please, you can click the QR code and go directly to that information. If you could go the next slide. Also, we would really like to reassure our residents that the city of Villa Park is prepared for disaster. So our city is always thinking about how to keep our residents safe. We are always evaluating all of our plans. We have a hazard mitigation plan. You can find that on our website. It is updated every 2 years, and it includes a lot of different types of hazard mitigation. So from fire to earthquake, from floods to windstorms, you can access that information right on the website. And speaking of the website, we're currently in an update for the website for our disaster information. So we're looking to make it more user-friendly, more directed. So there'll be a tab, for example, for pets, and you'll be able, if you have a pet, you can click on it. And then if you don't, you can go right by and get to the information you need. So next slide. Also, preparedness covers insurance. There's a saying to call your insurance company before you ever leave your driveway, and that really is what you should be doing. You can get information from your insurance carrier on what your next steps should be. What do they cover? Where could you go? So doing that ahead of time saves you a lot of hassle on the back end with trying to get reimbursed for something perhaps that your insurance didn't cover to begin with. So making sure that you're in touch, that you know how much coverage you have on your policies, and evaluating that on a regular basis. And then also document your home and belongings well ahead of time. And now, with smartphones, you can just start a video, take a tour of your home, open cabinets, pull out drawers, making sure that you are documenting everything in your home for those insurance purposes. And it's pretty easy to do now. Next slide, please. We also have resources here for OC Animal Care, and we have the flyers in the back as well. Because, when it comes time to evacuate, we definitely want to keep our pets with us. So making sure that you have an emergency contact list that covers your animals and that you have enough supplies for them as well. Next slide. And then, we are Villa Park, and a lot of us are really close to our neighbors, but sometimes, there might be someone on the street that you don't know. So please introduce yourself to your neighbors. Building these strong connections is part of preparedness. We got several calls during the fires in January during the PSPS events where someone was saying, oh, I know my neighbor's elderly, but they didn't answer the door. I don't know if they're there. I don't know how else to get in touch with them. So making sure that you forge those connections ahead of time that and even exchange emergency contact information. So if there was something that a disaster was heading our way, you would be able to call, their son, daughter, mother, father, to make sure, are they home? Or even if they had some very localized disaster, you see water pouring out their front door, but, you don't have their number, or you can't get in touch with them. Maybe you have somebody else's number, who can help with that. So making those connections is key. Next slide, please. These are important contact numbers for both the Orange County Sheriff and the Orange County Fire Authority. Of course, in emergency, contact 911, but these are the non-emergency lines. Next slide. And then next, stay connected with the City of Villa Park. We have our weekly newsletter, The Feeder, that has a lot of information. We have our social media, we have our website. And what we noticed during the January wildfires is there was a lot of misinformation out there. Some well-intentioned, some perhaps not so well-intentioned. So, going directly to city resources is really the best way to get accurate, timely information on anything that affects us here as residents in the city of Villa Park. Next slide. And finally, we would really encourage everyone here to join us on Wednesday, October 15th. It will be the second part of this series, which is what to do during and after a disaster. So tonight we were talking a lot about how to get ready. Next, we're going to talk about what you can expect if disaster does hit in this area. And finally, I would sincerely like to thank Dean Felch with the Orange County Fire Authority for a great presentation. Also, Robbie Pitts and Jerry Vainlander with the Serrano Water District, and Gabby Landros with the Municipal Water District of Orange County and We Rock. So thank you so much. And now we will open it up to questions. So please raise your hand if you have a question, and I will bring you the microphone. And if I could get my presenters back here, and even Captain Sotelo, if we have any questions for the Sheriff's Department, we'll have him up here as well. So please just raise your hand and I'll bring this around. So, anyone? No questions? Did all of our presenters answer your questions so well that no one has anything? Okay. Well, if you have anything in the future, please, we always have access to all of these fantastic experts. And so you can call, the city, email any of your council members at any time, and we're always happy to get your questions answered. So thank you so much for your time this evening.